up, bitches? You are listening to another great episode of the Linux Lads. I'm Mike, and with me here in Conor Murphy Towers in Dublin are Conor. Hi, Conor.
Hello.
And Shane. Hi, Shane.
Hello, Mike and Conor.
So, Shane, what we've been up to for the past time?
Me? Oh, God, putting me on the spot. I have recently been following on from, I think we talked about this last time, was a topic that came up at OggCamp was like, how do we make Linux more attractive to non-techie users, like people who don't get as excited about the nuts and bolts as some people would. But I thought filmmaking in Linux, like how would that go? Like, because I was experimenting with Kden Live and Blender, and obviously we use Audacity for this, and I was thinking like the editing, the creative side of Linux, like that's kind of an avenue, that's a way to get people involved and get people interested and think, oh well, I don't have to use proprietary shit like Adobe or After Effects and all that kind of stuff that costs heaven and earth, like, so you can use Kden Live, you can use Blender for VFX, I kind of am experimenting there. So I'd love to actually make like something like a 5 to 10 minute short film in Linux entirely, and just to show that it can be done and that it can look pretty good.
Yeah, that's something's quite interesting. Forgive me if I get his name wrong, but I think he's a frequent person on Jupiter Broadcasting on the Linux Unplugged podcast. I think his name is Brent, but again, if I got his name wrong, I do apologise. But his whole thing was he just started off with Darktable, which is the equivalent of Adobe's Lightroom, kind of a bit of a play on obviously Lightroom, Darktable, but it's kind of a photo editing piece of software, and it's something that I've used in the past. It's something that anytime I've taken photograph and I want to do some light editing, I just open up Darktable, and it's very powerful. It can do your whole histogram adjustments, your whole I forget the curve where you can bring up your highlights and you bring down your shadows and that whole thing. It's immensely powerful, but I normally just use it for things like denoising the photographs and some very basic editing, but something that's very powerful. It's kind of a GTK app, but if you're into more on the KDE side of things, there's something called Digicam, which is I've been told, and I've used it a couple of times, is even more powerful. You can get, Digicam is legit a very good photo editor. So if you're on the KDE side of things, definitely have a look out for Digicam.
Yeah, I tried to use Darktable myself before. I couldn't really figure it out. I'd need to spend more time with it, but yeah, it did seem pretty good.
I don't know, I'm the kind of person who opens Blender and then the self-preservation sense kicks in, and to protect my ego I close it again. I don't know, it's really, really dumb. So what do you think you'll be using for the short film then?
Well, I have tried out like Kden Live, which is good, and has some great features, but I've heard that Shotcut is better in certain ways. I haven't really given it a whirl just yet, but yeah, for the I don't know, I actually had a very short-lived YouTube channel, and all the video editing I did for that was actually in Blender, because little do people know there's a fully fledged video editor built into Blender.
It's probably a fully fledged render farm in it, but
it's like that application is amazing. It has layer upon layer of mysteries, and it's it is a terrifying thing to open up and to use initially, but I actually did a course online. Like I got about 10% of the way through it, but it was enough to give me a grounding. Actually, no, sorry, I tell a lie. I did actually follow a series of YouTube videos, which I think we'll link in the show notes actually, because they should be seen, because amazing tutorial by a guy called Mikey Cal or something on YouTube. And he goes through using Blender as a video editor, and he breaks it down and shows you how to arrange all the windows, and it's immensely powerful, like really, really good.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of computer do you use to even be able to run that thing?
Oh, my main desktop is pretty hefty. Like it's got like it's like a Core i7 something. I'm gonna say 3550K or something like that. I don't know. And I have a I have an NVIDIA GTX 1070 with like 8 gigs of RAM. No, 16 gigs of RAM. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a pretty beefy system. Even still, it still struggles. It's water cooled and everything. Like, not like cool custom water cooling. But it's got like one of those all-in-one water coolers.
Yeah. Well, something that you won't need a really beefy system for when we are into the business of great smooth segues is a T-pin, apparently.
Oh yeah.
They released a new
Smooth.
like butter. They released a new release, 15.7, and they use less memory than Ubuntu. And some would say, maybe with me in it, that it looks much better than Ubuntu or pretty much anything else has ever looked. Have you guys ever tried Deepin?
In a virtual machine, I have tried Deepin in the past, and you're very you're true when you're saying it's very well designed. It's very aesthetically pleasing. If it's based off GTK3 or the GNOME shells, but it's kind of their own custom fork of it. But it's definitely very eye candy-esque. But and this interesting thing was this is in our discussion notes here is an article on OMG Ubuntu, but the whole thing of they're claiming with their very latest version that even Ubuntu with stock GNOME, that their fork of GTK3 is actually more efficient, is running on using less resources. So their comparison here is they're saying that Ubuntu is using about 1.1 gig of RAM, and theirs is using 430 or no, so 830 megabytes of RAM versus 1.1 gig of RAM. Ubuntu using running in similar resources. So yeah, it's very interesting. And Deepin itself is quite shiny with its kind of transparent kind of glass effects, and it's very pretty. One thing is, if you're anyway tinfoil hat about anything like that, it is developed by a Chinese company. So if you're anyway anti-Chinese, I don't know how you would be, but there are some people who are very tinfoil hat about things like that.
Yeah, actually I wanted to bring them up because that kind of thinking, I've seen it online, and it annoys me when people say, well, it's a Chinese distribution, it must be spying on us. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but then so every big world government, and maybe every government period, would just love to be able to spy on people, and it doesn't matter if they are Chinese or if they are American. For all we know, there might be a massive amount of NSA spyware in Fedora. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I don't know, like that is something I feel pretty strongly about. Like, I do try in every service I use online, I always try and steer clear of the big ones. I mean, obviously 80% of the time that doesn't happen because it's just so much more convenient. But yeah, like I try not to put all my eggs in the one basket, basically. Like I try and use Dropbox for my cloud storage as much as possible and not put as much stuff on Google Drive. I moved to Proton Mail from Gmail. And there's a few other things that I can't recall that I use, like, so as not to use the whole ecosystem for just one of these big companies, because then I'm like, I'm giving you too much of my life, basically, and I don't want to expose my information to prying eyes, because you just know they have backdoors, like some of them do.
On that point, is probably your influence as well. I've been trying to de-Googlify my life as well, as much as possible. As I've also moved over to Proton Mail as my email client, and the whole thing, or the email provider, I should say, and the whole thing of they're saying, if you're not paying for it, then you are the product. So I am paying the $5 a month or whatever it is for Proton Mail, and the whole thing is they've no incentive to be looking into any of my stuff. And the whole thing of Proton Mail is the very encryption heavy. In fact, at the moment on Linux, they don't even have support for IMAP or anything like that, so you can't use Microsoft Outlook if you're on Windows or something, or running it under Wine, or using something like Mozilla Thunderbird to access the email. You have to log in to their app, and there's the whole thing of decrypting your email. Thing comes up as soon as you start logging in, and they also have their own application for Android. But it's the whole thing of it's very hard to for them to actually look into your stuff.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of public eyes, or a lot of public focus on privacy and security these days. And in the UK, Jeremy Corbyn, one person's Lenin and the other person's Liberal, is actually proposing a structure where the government would create something like Facebook and pay for it the same way the BBC or the RTE are paid from people's licenses. And we would have public, or not we, but the Brits would have public infrastructure that they can use, and it would help prevent siphoning people's data and be spread of fake news, because just like the BBC is, at least on paper, trying to be objective, this would also be objective. Now, on one side, might be a great idea. On the other side, this could be so easily abused by the government if people are not careful. What do you guys think?
I like it in principle, because like Facebook is a social network run by a for-profit corporation. So I guess I can see where he's coming from when he says a public service social network, basically. But so yeah, on that side, with my free software hat on, it's a good idea. But with my paranoid tinfoil hat wearing hat on, you're absolutely right. Like it's not. Yeah, it's not something I would feel comfortable with. GCHQ or whatever could have all sorts of shit going on there.
Yeah,
but I mean, I trust, the Irish government a little bit more. You mentioned RTE. It's kind of funded by the license fee, but it's also got advertisements on it as well, so they're not quite as good as the BBC in that regard. But yeah, I trust the Irish government more, mainly because they're kind of shit at these things.
Can you imagine Leo Varadkar ever coming up with anything like this idea? Or
they generally, when it comes to technology, they don't tend to do things very well in the Irish government. They're kind of like, oh, this internet thing, we should probably get on board with this.
Well, the UK government, they have got some kind of credentials because they did something really well about some government websites, but on the other side, I think they still keep paying Microsoft for upkeep of a lot of XP computers, so they are not that great either over there. I think that we should have something where we could basically, the same way we have streets, we need digital infrastructure for our digital lives as well, and it should be public, and it should definitely be open source. And there should be, and I'm saying a lot of should, like somebody please sort it out now.
You listening, Leo?
Yeah, Mr. Varadkar, drop the Pope thing and get on it, please. So basically, somebody should think a way of us having free avenues on the information highway, and should be free of commercial purposes and also free of any kind of spying. Yeah, Connor?
I was just going to say that something along those lines. It's it has been tried before, and to varying degrees of success. This is by no means current news whatsoever, but Munich, when they tried to switch over to their own Linux distribution, they did it in the worst way possible, where they're saying, we're going to take an existing Linux distribution, we're going to fork it, and we're going to maintain it ourselves with using our own in-house IT team. So obviously that went well. So they did the bad way. Apparently other cities are trying to copy that model, but doing it the correct way. In others, I think it's Barcelona or somewhere like that, where I could again be getting the city wrong, but the whole thing of saying, yeah, we like this Linux thing, but we're just going to employ Canonical to come in and just do it all for us, which is the correct way to do it, because then the city, the civil servants and the city infrastructure is not maintaining the Linux distribution that you picked, which I think is the biggest mistake that Munich made.
And again, are you listening, Dublin City Hall? I mean, this is, yeah, okay. Of course, I would like to see a lot of Linux computers everywhere, but there are other things. The Facebook thing or the Corbyn proposal kind of touches on it. Very important things these days are standards. So we need open file, open data, open standards, and like provable encryption, obviously, because these things eventually it might be used for your doctor's data. Like you might, maybe there's going to be virtual surgeries. What do we know? With virtual reality and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. Yeah, like the infrastructure for online stuff and digital stuff, like all that needs to be put in place by the government, like basically 5 years ago. Because it seems like any time you get an initiative from any government or public body, it's always like, they always have to do some lame shit like put E before everything, and lowercase e everything, and it's like e-taxes and revenue online. It's just revenue. Like it's just their website. You log in and you log your taxes or whatever you were doing there, and like it shouldn't be pushed as this kind of like, ooh, it's a novelty. No, it's the way people live nowadays. Like people interact with this stuff on a daily basis. So like put the infrastructure in place for that, for the people who want to, which is most people, to do like public service, to interact with public services online, like right now.
To give you an idea of how bad behind the times that the Irish government, when you're just mentioning revenue, just reminding me of this, was during my, I suppose, annual that's kind of turned into 6 months spring clean of my mom's laptop, where verbally she installs some random crap that slows down her computer. I was thinking, I was browsing to her installed programs and said Adobe Air. I'm like, Adobe Air, nobody uses this shite anymore, so immediately I'm going to uninstall this. And of course Windows comes up with the prompt of boom, like, are you sure you want to install this? There might be things that could be using it. I'm like, what could be using Adobe Air, this ancient piece of crap? Click through revenue online services. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. I was like, yeah, but that's actually useful. You might have to keep that on. So yes, I'm going to keep on this antiquated Adobe Air on my mom's computer.
What even is Adobe Air? I've never heard of that.
It's the Adobe Air was the whole thing of you could run a program in Flash or run your program in Java, and it was supposed to be cross-platform. So in other words, it was platform agnostic, because you could just run it in Adobe Air.
Bloody hell.
It was their attempt at being cross-platform, and we're talking about in the mid-2000s.
The governments like this kind of shit, because the UK government does give out to businesses like the HMRC software through which businesses can do payroll, so that it's actually good because you don't have to pay Sage or whoever for a big accounting software if you are a small business. And that thing is also, that works on Mac, Linux and Windows, and it's also written in something like Adobe Air, probably that. And it's horrifying to use, but
it's so slow. Nothing uses Adobe Air, and rightfully so, or anymore, and rightfully so, except for antiquated civil servant services.
Well, I think this was the darling of all open source people, Steve Jobs, who basically took a big middle finger and stick it up the arse of Adobe. And maybe we should have listened to him more, because Flash and Air and pretty much everything they use or they come up with, except maybe the Creative Suite, is holding progress back. Now, that might not be an issue when everybody starts using Chromebooks, because now we can run Linux on them. So,
more traditional Linux apps. For clarification, Google's Chrome OS actually is a version of Gen 2. But it's
really?
Incredibly, it is based on Gen 2, but it's incredibly locked down version of it. In other words, it's like a Apple's Mac OS or iOS is based
BSD.
on BSD, but yeah. Google's Chrome OS is effectively Gen 2.
I've never heard of anybody, I bought a Chromebook, now I'm going to have to spend a fortnight compiling
Well, that's because it's all on their own containerized.
They pre-compile it, that's what.
Yeah, but now I think the news is that they're rather than it being the incredibly locked down walled garden, that's even more locked down walled garden than Apple products. But I think they're gradually opening it up where you can just run traditional Linux apps.
Traditional, what is that?
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like you can run GIMP or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And as something that I think it was on another podcast, they said we're going to troll them immediately and just install Firefox.
Well, I mean that would improve a Chromebook 100% in my opinion. And isn't that happening to Google and Apple? No, sorry for throwing this in there. That's not in the show notes. But I just realized, there is some gaming company or maybe two who are and Spotify and Netflix who are trying to get around Google and Apple's 30% cut on Android and iOS. Now making it somehow that you basically, instead of paying through the Google ecosystem, you pay sideways through Spotify. Isn't there a trend of taking these walled gardens?
Well, maybe not through Spotify, but is it?
Yeah, because you go to the Spotify website, isn't there a trend these days suddenly to crack these walled gardens open and make them a bit more open for people to use them in a way that Google might not necessarily.
Actually, I think on that point, I think it is, and it's the major developer that you're thinking of is actually Fortnite. I think Fortnite, to install it on an Android phone, is go to our website, download this APK and sideload it, because they're trying to get rid or get around the 30% cut revenue or whatever the thing is, and that's a dangerous precedence of saying, everything should be sideloaded from an APK. I mean, there is going to be dumb people who just Google it and they come across a website that looks very similar and they're like, I'm going to just download this APK and sideload it onto my phone.
But it's already happening because I used to work in a shop and there was a lot of people coming because of Kodi boxes, wanting cables and stuff, and they would download whatever, and also on their phones people would put anything that would help them watch free shit and listen to free shit and play free shit. They would find any way possible. So maybe this is just the fault of Google and Apple being greedy, rather than the people using the devices that they paid for a lot of money the way they want to.
I think the key issue with all that stuff is it's basically companies saying, here's how we want you to watch our shit and here's how we want you to consume everything. And it's what companies are slow. Big companies are slow to change, so they're not adapting to how people use their content or access their content very quickly. So they're like, no, you have to get it from our app store and you have to do it this way. And people are like, well, I don't want to do that anymore. That's not
exactly
how
that's
not how people live their lives anymore. You're not adapting to how people use your service. So I don't know whose fault it is. Maybe that's just the way it is. Maybe that's just how things go. Maybe it's capitalism. Who knows?
It's me just kind of buzzing off some of the points that you raised, and this could be an entire conversation to ourselves. Feel free to interrupt me if I'm talking too long on this one. But it's the whole idea of the Kodi boxes, where Kodi is a legitimate open source project. It used to be the XBMC or Xbox Media Player or whatever project, and then they rebranded and became the Kodi project. It's really good project. It will install or will play local files on your Android phone if you install it on your Windows computer, your Linux computer, whatever. It's a really good kind of interface for playing your media. But what a lot of nefarious people what they're doing was they're just because it runs on Android, they're essentially just started introducing these really cheap boxes running Android, and they just slapped Kodi on it, but they also slapped a whole load of plugins that's watch Netflix for free and all of this cheap or really nefarious stuff. So that tainted the name of it was just referred to as Kodi boxes, and people were associating the word Kodi with piracy, which the Kodi people were like, no, that's not what we are at all. But what it was the plugins on top. But they were just putting those weird plugins on top of Kodi.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you interjected, because I basically said Kodi box without explaining it, and that shouldn't be, because that gives them crap that they don't deserve.
Yeah.
And it is horrible how this kind of reputation just grows without them being able to do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of a conversation I had with someone at work the other day. He was asking me, what is Linux, basically? And he was asking loads of questions, and I said, and he said, oh, so it's free. Oh, so you can just get a load of shit for free. Oh, that sounds great. And and I was like, no, hang on, come back here. You know, we're not done. So I had to explain, like, people just fundamentally don't get the philosophy in some cases. Like, people just don't, they fundamentally just don't get it. Like, like, I'm not saying they're never going to be able to get it, and we shouldn't try, but like some people are just like, oh, cool, it doesn't cost anything. Yeah. That's the benefit. No, it's more to it than that. And so you're right with, like, Kodi, prime example there. People just I can watch Big Bang Theory for free. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's another topic.
Or Game of Thrones, or Breaking Bad, or whatever's your TV series of choice. But the whole idea of I suppose the free software movement, one thing that's bad about it is you have to explain. It was like free as in cost, free as in gratis, as in this doesn't cost you anything, versus free as in freedom. And if you have to constantly be making that distinction of no, don't think of this as free as in cost. It may very well be free as in cost, but it's also free as in freedom. Then I think you have a fundamental marketing messages. So sometimes I use the term open source more, even though they're tangentially related, but I think they're not closely aligned to the utmost degree.
I'd use the word open more so.
Yeah, I would use the term open source because it describes exactly what it is. The source of the file is open; anyone can see it. Whereas if you have to say no, it's free as in freedom, as in free from your rights and everything is free. If you have to go into that 5-minute long spiel every time that you bring it up, then I think it's a marketing problem.
I just say Libre because it makes me sound really educated.
Really hipster.
Yeah, really hipster.
I got you guys is Libre.
Oh my God, is this like so Libre? And but that kind of split is amazingly characteristic of this ecosystem, whatever you want the ecosystem call, whatever you want to call the ecosystem. So we have Free and Libre, and we have Flatpak and Snap, and we have this and that. There seems to be that basically to come back to what you were saying, Shane. What is Linux? Linux is choice. Mm-hmm. That's the philosophy behind it anyway, and that I think summarizes it, because then it's up to you what you choose. And there are, like, recently, maybe not recently, every time there is something in the newspapers or in the, not newspapers, but online, saying, oh, this is going to kill Linux, this is going to destroy open source, this and this is going to eradicate us using free software. And it just seems to me that this movement, this choice that we have, you can't destroy it or take it back anymore. It's too big, and
you can't destroy an idea.
You can, you can. No, but you cannot destroy this because it's too popular. Too many people like using it. So.
On that point is on the fact that it's all about choice. I like the fact that there's a spectrum. I like the fact that if you agree 100% with the philosophy of no proprietary software on my computer whatsoever, I don't want anything, and there are choices for you. I mean, there's something called Triskel Linux, which is based off of Ubuntu, but it gets rid of any kind of proprietary blobs or anything that's in Ubuntu. There's open source BIOSes if you want a BIOS for your laptop. There's limited compatibility with hardware, but I think it's called LibreBoot, so there is that option available for you as well, so you can go 100% in that direction if that is what your philosophy is. I'm more of a pragmatist. In other words, I will use what works for me. In other words, I will use Linux because I like the fact that it has benefits for me, but I will also use proprietary software on top of it. I'll use Google Chrome if I want. I'll use Netflix with their proprietary DRM plugins and something like that, because I'm being pragmatic about it. I'll use it if I want to.
Allow me to interject. No, I think that actually is what makes us a community, because we don't let anybody tell us what we want to do. Unlike unlike people who are not interested in computers, and they just use what's available there, what is the most convenient, and it is amazing how long it has been around. I think it's been recently. Linux has been 27 years old or something, and Debian 25 or something like that. And I mean, another smooth segue from Mike is that another old project that's been around for donkey's years, as they say, is Thunderbird, and it's getting a new look and new features and a new logo apparently.
This is something that is long overdue as far as I'm concerned. It was kind of been kept on a sailing drip for a while, kind of saying it works, but like we haven't been updated it. We're just kind of occasionally giving it updates. Now with the new redesign of Firefox, Thunderbird is also getting the redesign. So the previous version, I believe, was Thunderbird 52, which was kind of very long in the tooth and had barely any updates, and was kind of just being kept in the background, saying it works, but but there's no updates for it. Now they've gone straight from 52 over to version 60, and I think it's the brand new version, or based off the new version of Firefox. So the new Firefox redesign and the new Firefox redesign is carried over to Thunderbird, and the back end of the snappy new Firefox code, the fact that it's much faster, is being transferred over to Thunderbird as well. So long overdue as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, everybody get Thunderbird. There's cocaine in it. There's been a change. I don't know if we maybe talked about it recently, because we touched on Mozilla in the first episode, but the guy from System 76 and Microsoft, and eventually ended up as a community manager for Thunderbird. Yes. So I keep forgetting this guy's name, so I'm just going to call him the guy. And
this will be in the show notes.
Yeah, the actual name would be in the show notes. He is I think that signifies the stuff that despite numerous reports, Thunderbird is not dead. Yes. And they are actually trying to lift it from maybe not the ashes, but the in mobility that it's been in for some time.
Like a phoenix from the ashes.
Yeah, that's probably a horrible metaphor. Anyway, something that's also moving forward is apparently now you can install firmware updates on the Lenovo ThinkPads, which you, Connor, would probably love as you're an owner of one.
I'm currently, and this is currently being recorded on a T450, but I believe the very latest versions, the T480s and so on, and apparently it's been a long time coming, is you can now say, for example, if there's a new firmware update or something like that, or for the laptop, if be it BIOS or something like that, you get a prompt and say there's this new update that's coming. So apparently Lenovo ThinkPads are now, you can now with the latest version, the T480s and so on, you can now just install, say, oh, there's a new, rather than relying on Windows or something like that to update your BIOS. It's just a matter of just clicking in and saying, yeah, there's a new update. Cool.
That's very cool. And apparently, after adopting LXQT, the Lubuntu project is going to switch to Wayland. Hey, by 2010, which is amazing. Have you guys tried Wayland?
Yeah. This is my next question. I have run a live distro with Wayland on it, and I was like, how is this different? I just
that's great though.
Oh yeah, I suppose. That's but what are the improvements like for people who know about these things?
And with regard to Wayland,
yeah, like how is it better? Explain like I'm 5.
Well, most things are based on the X11, which I think X11 has been around since donkey's years, since I think even way before Linux was even around. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure some person who knows better will be replying back to our email and saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, you're incorrect." But it's something that's been around for like 20 or 30 years. It's very antiquated. It's kind of something that's works, and we're kind of constantly patching it to say now it just to upgrade it, but it's fundamentally in its core is something that's very ancient. Wayland is something that's more modern, so it would introduce better things that I think I can't think off the top of my head, but it is more just more modern kind of stack of displaying windows and something like that. But one thing that I did want to correct with Mike when he said by 2010, it's Ubuntu version 2010, not the year 2010.
I was like, wait a second.
Sorry, yeah. You see, I'm glad you guys paying attention. That it was a test. No, Wayland is meant to be secure as a protocol, and it's a completely different architecture. So with Xorg, you have the X server, and all the rest of the stack is basically client software that connects to it. Wayland is not a server; it's a protocol, and it's meant to be much more secure and I think extensible. We could obviously find better description, but there is a reason why everybody's trying to switch. And I tried it on the KG desktop this morning, and as much as there was no difference, and I think that's a good thing, because we shouldn't know a difference unless there's something really broken with X, and then there should be an improvement. But if there was a case where you put me in front of a Wayland and in front of an Xorg installation, and I can't tell which is which, then I think that's the best job they can make with it. They can do with it. Having said that, I did notice some differences, like something that doesn't matter on the Wayland desktop if the cursor is on the actual desktop, not an application window. The cursor is about 2 or 3 times the size of a normal cursor, and there was some fun going on with my SSH agent, but that might be just because I was previously running Xorg and I logged out and logged in without restarting. And I think I need to reset the trackpad, because suddenly it was scrolling in the opposite direction. But those were all minor things, and unless there's something much major, then I think Wayland, after all, like 10 years or something, or maybe even more, might be finally ready for production.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it out, or I might do my research.
Certainly something to look forward to, because it's and it could be at this age, as Mike was saying, that you won't notice the difference. In other words, they could switch it tomorrow and it'll be brand new. But I think there's some niggly things in the background, because I think Ubuntu have tried themselves doing Wayland by default, and then they've ended up backpedaling. I think they were going to do with the latest 18.04 LTS release, they were going to do Wayland by default. They didn't think it was quite mature enough, particularly not for an LTS. LTS obviously will have to there's more scrutiny on an LTS release. Something has to be rock solid stable for an LTS release. So there's a reason why they kind of do their experiments in previous versions or other versions. For example, their switch to GNOME was in 1710 rather than 1804 in order so they can hammer out the bugs. So they tend not to do their experiments on 1804. So presumably they felt that Wayland was not quite mature enough for their 1804 release.
Yeah, I mean, they do have massive adoption, so they do have to be very careful. Although, as far as Ubuntu goes, they are, and their usage of GNOME. You said, Conor, that you had a problem with GNOME because it doesn't show you the Dropbox icon in the top corner.
Yes.
I wonder what they are going to do with that, because
this is very true. The computer that is doing this recording at the moment is running a version of Linux called Andragos, and I was just saying, I wonder what GNOME is up to these days. So I decided, okay, wipe my computer, Andragos with GNOME, or their version of GNOME at least, with some slight tweaks, and installed Dropbox. I was like, yeah, Dropbox, find that useful, so I'm going to install that. The Dropbox indicator icon, where you can, where it minimizes it, you can right click on it and you can right click, bring up a menu to go into preferences, or and then selective sync, which is I use quite a bit, particularly on my laptop. Is I go into selective sync and say, oh yeah, I only want certain things to sync down. That icon pretty much doesn't exist on GNOME, so it was the case of install Dropbox. Oh, it's running in the background, and thinking, wait, is it pulling down absolutely everything, including a lot of I have a lot of music files and things like that may take up a lot of space, and thinking, no, I don't want you to sync that right now. So it was a case of panicking and then going into the task manager and then killing the process, because literally the icon wasn't there. So but in the other desktop environments like Cinnamon or KDE or something like that, they do have support for those kind of legacy icons. So
it's not legacy icons if everybody else is using it. This is a major usability fuck up as far as I'm concerned. We are still a new podcast, so we can actually do this. What is your ideal or most favorite desktop environment, Shane?
Oh, okay. This has changed a few times over the years, but no pressure. For the longest time, I thought the whole philosophy, the what Mate is doing nowadays, GNOME 2 kind of look like. So you have your applications, your places, your system, or that's what it is. Yeah. And you have your thing along the top. But what really pissed me off about GNOME 2 before was that I think it used to have a taskbar on the bottom and the top, and I was like, why? That's no point. Yeah. And so I had, so that's what made me ditch it eventually, because I thought I'm, wasting that 20 pixels of vertical space on the bottom. But I think Cinnamon is where I'm at right now. I really like Cinnamon.
I really like Cinnamon as well. For the people who are not aware of the Mate desktop is literally the direct continuation of the GTK or the GNOME 2 code, but modernizing, does support GTK 3 and so on. So they've completely modernized the back end, but it just looks similar. So if you're used to that paradigm of something like that, of switching, like Shane was saying, with the application menus, the three menus at the top, and your top bar and your bottom bar, but in the Ubuntu Mate edition, I think they have a desktop switcher, so you can change the layout around if that is not your preference.
Obviously, though, special mention goes to XFCE, because I've always anytime I have a low power, I've always had kind of a big computer and that sits in my room, and then a little computer that I bring with me everywhere. And on the little computer for many years I had Xubuntu, and XFCE is fine. That's the best way to describe it. It's fine. It just does what you want it to do, and it doesn't take up too much space, and it doesn't get in your way.
For people in the GNOME, I describe it as the Debian stable of desktop environments. In other words, it doesn't change much. It does the job. Maybe slightly outdated, but it rocks solid.
I certainly prefer to LXD or LXQT, or whatever the cool kids are saying.
I think, LXD. Oh, sorry. So the Ubuntu distribution that we started this discussion of. To me, this massive. We move tangentially. Let's just accept that and.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, the Ubuntu distribution for me, that was always okay, I tried, but I'm not gonna like it, and I tried and I didn't, because the icons are horrible. Functionality from the manager, from the window, from the file manager was missing. Everything kind of works, and it actually did work, but it was really ugly as far as I'm concerned. So I never gave it serious consideration, and now look at them. Suddenly, I don't know what changed in the project, but suddenly they are on the forefront of progress. Gone are the days when Ubuntu was the even more Jurassic than XFCE maybe, and suddenly we have them, using LXQT. Well, maybe not so suddenly. It is just because it came suddenly into my head, but it's probably been happening for some time now.
Yeah, it has been long in the works. Yeah.
They are adopting LXQT. The project is moving forward. They, as we talked about before, they dropped this oh, we are really lightweight for computers that have got half a megabyte of RAM and and a floppy for a disk drive. And they are becoming a serious contestant for people who like the look of Qt as opposed to the overdone look of GTK, as is in Cinnamon, Mate, GNOME, and XFCE. And they do like new things, and project moving forward really at some pace. So I'm really looking forward, and I say forward a lot. I'm looking forward to what they come up with, and maybe they will give KDE a competition and make KDE even better in progress. So to answer the question on everybody's lips, yes, I like KDE, and I've been liking it for about 6 months, and it's so stable and at the same time still updating and adding new features and new shiny, and I really like shiny. That I think I'll be liking, as long as they stay on this course, I'll be liking it for a very long time.
Certainly, I have tried out KDE Plasma 5 in the past, and it's pretty much everything that Mike has been describing. It's just there'd be little small things, niggling things that might annoy me that would cause me to say, I wonder what other desktop environments are they implementing this one particular thing better, and so that caused me to distro hop. But in terms of if I was sat down and say there's this laptop right in front of you, it's running KDE Plasma 5, but you have to use that for the rest of your life, I'd be perfectly fine with that. It's very well designed and very stable.
I was like this with KDE before, when when these little niggling things would come up and I would switch to GNOME, but back then the little niggling things were like your audio server crashing and suddenly you had no sound. So yeah, props to the KDE project for being awesome.
One thing that Shane mentioned is Cinnamon, and I really like Cinnamon myself. To me, it's the GNOME shell, or the GTK3, modern GTK3, but sensible. In other words, if you're used to a close approximate, I would like to describe it as Windows 7. So if you're used to the Windows 7 paradigm, as in the menu is down there at the bottom and you've kind of a search bar and things like that, if you think that is your idea of a UI paradigm that you're used to, which for some reason my brain is just kind of stuck in that era, that's the way where I expect things are. It's very Windows 7-esque. Yeah,
and might be controversial to say, but I actually liked Windows 7.
Yeah. I think it was, for me, it was peak Windows.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, XP was like, it's all right, and then Windows 7 came along. I was like, oh, okay, this isn't half bad. Like, it, for Windows.
Yeah.
No, well, let's not get all tribal about it. Like, if it's good, it's good, no matter who makes it or what philosophy it's built upon. Windows 7. I happily used Windows 7 for years. So, what can I say, really?
Yeah, so in other words, if you do really like Windows 7 and you think that Windows 7 is how you expect a computer to run, but you want a Linux equivalent, probably try the Cinnamon desktop environment, because wouldn't be exactly the same, but it'd be very similar. You'd find familiar things like, the settings is kind of laid out the way I expected and that sort of thing.
I think it looks quite good as well. It looks really nice these days.
Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, let's not be tribal. We are nearing probably the end, but I really want to discuss something that's not in any show notes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a pause so that you guys can cut it out if you don't like it. Pause. And now we are going to discuss what gave you a Linux boner in the last insert your favorite period of time. You know how many times I had a podcast that would just say, yeah, we are cutting this out.
And then we'll just leave it in.
Yeah, because it's fun, isn't it? Anyway, I came across a project or a product. That's not a product. It's free and open source software. And that really almost gave me a boner if that was my kind of thing, for a sexual kind of thing, but it was more about the functionality. Yeah. It's called Visidata, and it's a spreadsheet, which makes what I just said even weirder. It's basically a spreadsheet that can load I successfully loaded 7 million lines of CSV into it, and it opened it, and I could work with it. I mean, eat that, Excel. LibreOffice can't do that. Excel can't do that, as far as I know. But this little command line application written in the king of programming languages, which is Python, obviously, does it very well. So props to whoever makes Visidata. I don't remember his name, but it will be in the show notes. I really like using it, and I hope it will go even further in its awesomeness.
That's certainly impressive. If you say the statistics, what you're saying is correct, is that whole thing of you've this incredibly large CSV file and just opens, boom, there you go, no problem whatsoever.
It's not exactly boom, but it's okay, you open it and you can see the numbers coming up at the bottom corner that it's loading them, and it's
the fact that it's kind of choking through it.
Yeah, it's not like stuttering or just plainly refusing to do anything. And you can use Python regular expressions to filter stuff, and it has got many other awesome features I won't bore you with. Yeah, Shane.
No, I mean, you're preaching to the converted here. Spreadsheets, data. I'm on board. Don't worry about it. Like I was about to say I have a boner, but that's that doesn't work. I have a thing to contribute to that thing you just said. I discovered something recently that was really cool. It's probably old hat for many people listening, and even the couple of people in the room. But WebDAV. I remember we were fudging around with NeoCities for the website originally, and you can connect to that with WebDAV, and it just shows as a network folder. I mean, it sounds like really simple, but like I found it really fun. Like I just thought, ooh, I can think of many uses for this. And I just like that idea. When it comes to like cloud storage or hooking up with storage, I love the idea of just having network folders. Like it's because that's the way I like to operate, drag and drop. I'm a bit of a Luddite in that kind of way.
The UI paradigm of the whole of browsing through something and then just dragging and dropping. I mean, that's the whole thing of people who have FTP servers, and rather than you from their web browser and then going in and saying, all right, manually saying file upload blah blah blah, this one thing. I mean, this is the whole thing where FileZilla came in. So where there's like, this is files for people who've never seen FileZilla is kind of two panes where this is on the left is your file manager that kind of splits in two. So on your left is this your local stuff, and then you say, oh, I want to log into this FTP server, username, password, blah, blah, authenticate your credentials, blah blah blah, and then on the right is like, this is your FTP server, and you can literally just drag and drop, copy and paste between the two, and it's just it saves a lot of time just to have that whole drag and drop functionality.
Yeah, it's nice to have a visual as well. It's nice to see things, like, because I love the efficiency of the command line and the efficiency of keyboard shortcuts, but nothing beats being able to see everything, like with nice pretty pictures.
The whole tree menu and things like that, understanding
it helps you to visualize if you have got like a bloody stack of files and folders.
Yeah, and thinking, hold on a minute, like I see that this picture is in my documents, where it should be in my pictures or something like that, and just seeing instantly, going, oh, that's wrong, I should drag that over here. Whereas if you're navigating through the folders on your command line, it may not be as obvious.
Yeah, I mean, you can marry the two, don't you? You can use something like Midnight Commander or the excellent VIFM, where you have everything's going on command line, so you can use it on a server that you connected to via SSH, but it's graphical, so you can use it for. You can still see what's happening without constantly LSing. So Connor, did you have a bowling recently?
Of something some standard project really didn't stand out to me recently. Nothing off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think with this kind of statement, I think it's time for us to finish. Let's just iterate over our socials and over our over where to find us. So one place would be Twitter, where we are at Linux Lads.
Yeah, we now have a Linux Lads Twitter.
Next, we have our website, which is linuxlads.com, where you can subscribe to our RSS feed and get our episode into your podcatcher, which is exactly what you're already doing since you're listening to this, probably. And we are on Telegram. The link is ugly. It's going to be on our show notes.
We do have our own separate Telegram now, so not to be associated with those Dublin Linux heathens.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, I mean the jerks, right? But if you want to meet those jerks, and us as well, they are the same people. Oh, well, anyway, if you want to meet us in person, then obviously only nice encounters, please. No egg throwing or anything. If you want to meet us, come to our meetup, and you can find that on Dublin Linux meetup page.
Linux or dublinlinux.org is the web address. If you search for us on most of the social media, or all the links will be on that web page. So that'll be dublinlinux.org if you want that information.
And with that, it's time to say goodbye. I've been Mike.
I've been Connor.
And I've been Shane.
Goodbye, bitches.